Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from our homes on this Tuesday that feels like a Monday because we had an unexpected off day yesterday, and my apologies. I was under the weather, to say the least. Glad to be back, though, especially glad because, again, yesterday wasn't good, but glad to be back with y'all here for the next couple of hours, talking local, regional, and national sports, and glad to have Wade with me. Wade, how was your 3-day weekend?
Well, hey, it was good, Mo, and good to be with you, and glad you're back. And, yeah, late notice. We tried to pull some strings together and get a show off the ground yesterday, and then we said, you know what, man, let's enjoy President's Day. So, I appreciate the little 2-hour block yesterday away from everybody, but man, I'm glad to be back and good to be with everybody.
Man, it's one of those miss a day, miss a lot. We're kind of playing catch up a little bit with today's show, but it's still going to be fun. In the next hour, we'll be joined, as we typically are on Tuesdays, by Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, getting us caught up on everything on campus. In the next segment, we will be joined by Joe Rexrode of The Athletic, talking about the NFL quarterback market, man, because, are the Titans in it? Are the Titans not in it? If the Titans are in it, who are they talking about? Who's going to go where? So I figured it'd be great if we could check in with Joe and kind of get a little bit of a read on how this thing is going to go. And again, most interest closest to home are the Titans looking for a quarterback. So yeah, looking forward to kind of getting Joe's insight on that in the next segment. We'll also be talking about a lot of basketball because it is that time of year. Be talking a little baseball because spring training is up and running in Arizona and in Florida. Daytona was this past weekend. We'll touch on that, and just plenty to get into. Oh, need to mention the Four Nations face-off final on Thursday. I think it kind of fell the way a lot of people had hoped it would, but we'll talk more about that here later in the show. And it is Top 5 Tuesday, presented by Mid-South 5 Fitness. Saturday Night Live celebrated its 50th year over the weekend, and so figured Wade and I would get into our top 5 SNL cast members. Should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. Wade, you got some ideas?
I could probably, I feel like our list will have a little overlap, but yeah, it was fun. And I didn't get to watch a ton of it. I still haven't recorded to go back and really give it a true deep dive. But the bits I did watch Sunday were epic. And there was a who's who just on that show alone right there.
I will tell you that narrowing my list down to 5 will not be easy. So I think we could have done a top 15 and still had plenty to go around. But yeah, looking forward to that here in the final segment of the show. So stick around for that. Again, we've got Joe Rexrode in the next segment, and we're going to get him in early and get him out early. So let's go ahead and get into yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Hey, folks, today's rundown is brought to you by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education right here in Murray County. So give them a call today at 931-388-5831 or visit zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. That's Zion Christian Academy, prepared for college and equipped for purpose.
Girls basketball scores from Monday evening / Monday night. Pope John Paul II with a 43-42 win over Brentwood Academy. Henry County defeated Dixon County 72-57. Franklin Road Academy upset Ezel Harding 53-52. Liberty Creek with a 71-31 win over Greenbrier. It was Harpeth Hall 92, St. Cecilia 28. Antioch and Hillsborough 0-0. I don't know exactly what that means. We're going to have to do some deep diving on that situation. Lawrence County with a 52-49 win over Giles County. Coverage on PC Live, Wade?
Yep, Pulaski Citizen Live was there last night. You can read about it at PulaskiCitizen.com. Great game and 2 hard-fought rivals duking it out in 8 AAA quarters.
There we go. McKenzie with a 48-31 win over Houston County. It was Westmoreland 42, Merrill High 23. Creekwood with a 64-13 win over Montgomery Central. Battle Creek, in its first postseason, secures its first region tournament berth with a 40-35 win over Mount Pleasant in District 10-2A, excuse me. Murfreesboro Central defeats Marshall County 42-27. Shelbyville with a 49-37 win over Columbia Central. It was Sycamore 53, Fairview 18. Warren County defeated Spring Hill 46-33, and Webb School defeated Donaldson Christian 42-39.
Boys basketball scores, there were a few from last night, and they included Lewis County defeating Battle Creek 75-30, Dixon County on top of Henry County 85-75. It was Liberty Creek by 10 over Greenbrier 64-54, your final there. Hillsboro 44, Antioch 33, Lipscomb Academy with a 53-46 win versus CPA. Merrill Hyde takes care of Westmoreland 46-33. A couple of games from the Four Nations face-off yesterday. Canada with a 5-3 victory, led big, and then had to rally late to get the win versus Finland. The more on that later. Also more on this other team, you may have heard of them, called the United States. They do suffer a loss last night, but we'll tell you why it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. They fall to Sweden 2-1 to complete pool play.
Basketball tonight. This is a doubleheader, but this is in District 10-1A action as Culleoka will play Hampshire at Richland in the opening round. Girls first at 6 o'clock, guys to follow. Again, that is a tournament game in District 10-1A, but you had the same two teams or same two schools, so they just doubled up. Girls basketball tonight. Again, these are all postseason matchups. Harpeth plays Cheatham County at 6:30. Beach and Gallatin square off. Harpeth and Cheatham County at 6. Beach and Gallatin at 6. Columbia Academy is at Good Pasture at 6. This is the front end of a doubleheader similar to Culleoka and Hampshire. Martin Luther King's girls are at Hume Fogg at 6. Overton is at plays Hunter's Lane at 6. Glencliff is at Maplewood at 6. Nashville Christian is at Providence Christian. That's a 6 o'clock start. Siegel plays Riverdale at 5. Cornersville and Santa Fe will play. I don't think that's right. That's not right. Disregard that. Lewis County will play Summertown at Mount Pleasant. That game is at 5. It's been moved up in anticipation of inclement weather. Clarksville Northeast plays at Springfield at 7, and at 6:30, Loretto plays Battle Creek at Mount Pleasant as well. So,
boys basketball games for this evening. Some beginning at 6 o'clock, including Webb School at Clarksville Academy. Fairview is taking on Creekwood. Murfreesboro Central Magnet will come to Pulaski to take on Giles County. We'll have you covered with broadcast coverage on Pulaski Citizen Live. Other games at 6 include McKenzie at Houston County. 6:30 for Oakland versus Riverdale. Spring Hill at Coffee County. And Columbia at Lincoln County. 7 o'clock window, we have Clarksville Northwest at West Creek. Franklin County is traveling to Lawrence County at 7 p.m. At 7:30 tonight, you have Columbia Academy at Good Pasture. You also have Watertown versus Monterey. Hendersonville is at Mount Juliet. Montgomery Central will take on Sycamore. Doubleheader in college basketball action this evening. TSU will be on the road at UT Martin. Those games get underway at 5:30. You can catch them on ESPN+. Men's basketball only tonight. Austin Peay will be at Bellarmine. That game gets underway at 5:30 on ESPN+. And at 6 o'clock on ESPN+, you can see Lipscomb, who is on the road at Eastern Kentucky. That is your schedule. Those are your results. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's rundown.
Here, a top story brought to you as always by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And apparently there is not an official announcement expected until sometime next month, but Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb posted on Twitter, the Cleveland Rockers are back. Now, the Cleveland Rockers were a WNBA team from 1997 to 2003. A group in Cleveland has put in a bid for an expansion team that would start in 2008. It would be the 16th team in the WNBA. That's the same team that Nashville, among others, has a bid in for. But it appears that the Cleveland bid has been accepted or will be accepted, and Cleveland will be the 16th team in the WNBA. Golden State is set to take the floor this year as the 13th team. Toronto and Portland have already been announced for the 2026 season, and a 16th team was anticipated for 2028, and it sounds as if that is going to be Cleveland ahead of, among others, Philadelphia, Houston, Detroit, Miami, and Kansas City. So, disappointing, if true, but again, the Cleveland mayor tweeted it, so there's no real reason not to think that it's accurate, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, that seems, that's the 21st century official sign off in many
Right.
regards.
It's Twitter official. Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously disappointing for Nashville. Exciting though, if you're the WNBA, because you had a plethora of what seemed to be solid bids. We linked, about how kind of airtight the Nashville bid seemed.
Mhm.
That does kind of make you scratch your head as to, why this didn't pan out. And I haven't really kind of dug deep in I haven't done my internet deep dive just yet on why this might have shaken out this way. Because it is obviously frustrating and upsetting if you're Nashville, especially obviously if you're excited about it. But then also the footprint, I'm pulling up a map right now of the franchises. And I mean, the footprint in the South and especially the Southeast is not very expansive outside of Atlanta, basically. So, there's got to be a little more to the story. I'm sure all these bids were pretty solid, but man, it feels disappointing because Nashville came with a great bid, backed by great ownership, a beautiful arena proposal, and still didn't get selected. So it does make you kind of scratch your head and wonder how things didn't go their way.
Yeah. I mean, you wonder. I wonder how much an NBA franchise being in place has to do with, the success of a WNBA expansion bid, which would seem to bode well for like a Charlotte or a Houston or someone else like that going forward to be able to get a team back. But at the same time, those teams are no longer there, and there's got to be some sort of a reason for that, you would think. So, and I don't know. It's like you said, it's hard to figure, but the first reaction, I think, is just disappointment that Nashville wasn't that 16th team. But upon further review, like you said, there were plenty of teams that showed interest, and maybe 16 suddenly is not the number for the WNBA.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting too, right? Is that bid was so nice from Nashville, it'd be kind of a shame in many regards if you just kind of wad it up and, oh, well, we didn't get picked and we just move along. It feels like the WNBA, with the new rights deal coming in, I mean, this league is prepared to absolutely take off in terms of revenue and in terms of sales and marketing. Everything about the league is trending upward, at least at this current moment. So maybe, hey, we hate to pass on you this go around, but don't worry, we'll come back to you. An estimated expansion fee of $250 million, which is more than double that Portland had to pay for their bid. So the fees are going up, which kind of obviously insinuates that interest, everything about it is kind of going up. And you just wonder if and when Nashville will get that call, because it may not be this go around.
Yeah. Sounds as if we will certainly keep you informed as we know. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll be joined by Joe Rexrode of The Athletic, talking a little football. Stay tuned. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Still efforting to get Joe Rexrode in with us to talk a little NFL, specifically the quarterback situation across the league and perhaps here locally. A lot of talk precipitated by the Jets and Aaron Rodgers parting ways a couple of weeks ago, but that's far from the only vacancy or the only up in the air situation in the league. Obviously, there seems to be talk about Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams parting ways as well. A lot of unsettledness at that position, and teams don't like being unsettled at that position.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how the quarterback market kind of plays out, obviously, because it feels like only in the last 3 or 4 years has this, this quote unquote bridge quarterback buzzword kind of been really brought out. It always feels like the traditional recipe was you draft if you have a quarterback, you obviously keep him. If you don't have a quarterback, you just draft and hope you get lucky. And then if that pick doesn't work out, you just enter this vicious cycle and try and get another one. Kind of seen some more moves in free agency, some good, some bad. The Derek Carr contract that we've talked a lot about in the last month, maybe not being the best. So that it feels like this new phenomenon, and it feels like a small little version of musical chairs at the key position.
Yeah, and for that's not a good situation. I mean, because again, it's such a quarterback driven league, quarterback driven sport, that you'd like to have some consistency there. And when you're having to come up with a new QB1 on a year-to-year basis, I would think that kind of stymies the growth of your program as a whole. So I mean, obviously you turn them over at the collegiate level and it just comes with the territory, but ideally you would get a guy and be able to build around and work around him for the next period of time. I believe we now have with us Joe Rexrode of The Athletic. Joe, are you there?
Hey, sorry about that. How you guys doing?
We're
What's up,
doing
Joe?
well, man. Appreciate you coming in. We've got Joe Rexrode audio only. And just wanted to, again, kind of get your thoughts on the quarterback situation across the league and here in town, Joe. Are the Titans going to be in that chase for a bridge quarterback, or are they going to saddle back up with Levis once again? Or how do you see that panning out? And across the league, what are you kind of feeling at this point?
Yeah, well, as far as the Titans, I mean, that's the big question, right? I guess the good thing is they have a pretty good idea of what they are thinking about the draft by the time we get through free agency. Although I suppose it's possible they could have a plan and just not work. But even if they court some of these veterans who are starter quality veterans, I think that'll kind of tell you something. I think the Levis, I mean, the one answer I feel good about giving is I don't think Levis running it back is an option. There's a good debate about Levis in a competition with a young quarterback, Levis as the backup to a bridge quarterback. I kind of like the idea of Levis somewhere else. I just think when you have what they had with him and all the hopes and it all kind of goes bad last year, I think it's probably kind of better for both parties to just move on. But we'll see. We'll see if that's what they think. And then across the league is fascinating. I mean, the Rams and Stafford, the Vikings and Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins. There's Mac Jones, there's Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. I mean, the quarterback movement, off-season stuff in the NFL is so much more interesting than it used to be, as you guys know.
Yeah. And I mean, you see a guy have some success like a Sam Darnold, but they've also got JJ McCarthy on their roster who was unable to play last year with a knee situation. I mean, do they just hand it off to him? Do you bring Darnold back? Can you afford to bring Darnold back? I mean, there are a lot of questions impacting each of those individual situations, I guess, that create those situations.
Yeah, and the Vikings thing is really interesting, Mo, because I swear if he had just had decent games in the last two and not like disastrous games, then I don't see how it would even be a question, right? Like you won 14 games with the guy. He was terrific this year. And he had a lot of help because Kevin O'Connell's a really good coach, a really good quarterback coach. Obviously Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. I mean, it's a terrific situation, but you can't knock what the guy did. But I think those last two games,
Lost you, Joe.
I just have a hard time buying it. But there are some to that effect.
Joe Rexrode of The Athletic joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little quarterback at the NFL level. As you said,
Hello.
Hey, can you hear us, Joe? Mark, do we want to take Joe out and bring him back in?
Yeah, I can hear you guys now. Sorry, I lost you.
You
there
got
for
us?
a minute.
Okay, no, that's
I got
fine. Okay, great. There's been a lot of conjecture, I guess, if the Titans decide to go with a bridge quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is a name that has been connected to this franchise. I don't think officially, obviously, but specifically, is that even in a bridge situation a realistic direction for this team to go in?
I mean, I can't rule it out. You got a couple of things there. Obviously, you have the Chad Brinker history with Aaron Rodgers. is that good or bad? I don't know. Like a lot of people who have been with Aaron Rodgers or have history with Aaron Rodgers end up not necessarily wanting to
Mm-hmm.
be around him. Some do, but but you do have that, and then like I just feel like with him, he's getting to the point where, and this is why I have to think retirement has to be at least possible. But I think he's getting to the point where it's like beggars can't be choosers as a starting quarterback, right? So does he want to come in and you know do a year or two for a 3-14 team? But I wouldn't think so. But also, if he wants to start in the NFL, then I don't, I just don't know what else he's looking at, and it may not be a lot more than that. So I can't rule it out. I mean, I don't love it from the Titans' perspective. To me, if you're not going to draft a QB, I like the idea of a Darnold better, someone you can grow with a little bit, right? Someone who actually could, kind of be a Tannehill kind of thing for you potentially. Even like to me, I don't hate Justin Fields as a possibility, just because like, some of these guys do get better in their mid-20s and we see it, and I feel like at least with a Justin Fields with this offensive line, you could escape some sacks. But yeah, like I can't dismiss Aaron Rodgers as a possibility. It would be, hey, from a media perspective, boy, would it be fun.
Would it?
Well, I mean, at least there would be interesting fodder at times.
Oh, without question, there would. From a Rodgers standpoint, you can kind of see it. From a Titan standpoint, especially seeing the way things went with the Jets. I mean, do you want to go down that road?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's again the very overused word, but it is a real thing. The trying to establish a culture. I mean, does this help Brian Callahan to have a QB who's going to just ignore him if need be, and do his own thing and go to Egypt or whatever, instead of coming to minicamp? I mean, I would think if I'm Brian Callahan, I don't love the idea of that, right? But I also, then again, if you're Brian Callahan, do you like that idea less, or do you like the idea of a rookie coming in and you guys are 2-9 after 11 games and everybody wants you fired? I mean, that's so. I mean, you could make the case, at least from Callahan's perspective, who I do think has a lot to prove this year, and the way coaching tenure is going in this league, he's got to prove it fast. I could make the case for him to prefer the bridge or the veteran quarterback.
Joe, with that kind of being said, imagine you're the fantasy general manager of the Tennessee Titans, and kind of based where this franchise is currently constructed, if we go that route in terms of a veteran QB, which one of those maybe fits the best with the roster currently as constructed in your mind, or does anybody jump out?
Well, yeah, I guess the only thing that comes to mind there is, like I just say, I just feel like someone who, can move well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just like, for example, Kirk Cousins, and I don't know how much he has left. Obviously, even a year ago, he was a hot commodity. He played well first half of the year and really fell off, coming off the Achilles. Even if he wasn't, I just like Kirk Cousins is exactly the quarterback you don't want with a bad offensive line. Jared Goff is exactly the quarterback you don't want with a bad offensive line. There aren't that many statue quarterbacks left in the league, but those two guys are that for sure. But yeah, as far other than that, I mean, I think it's just, I just really, again, if Darnold were a possibility, and maybe I am overreacting to the 14 wins to the 15 games before the very end, or I guess 16 games before the very end. But I was impressed. And, if you go back with Darnold, first of all, it's like the Jets, you almost can't count that against somebody. He actually got better in Carolina. At San Fran, they loved him. And, there was some indications that he was going to get a chance to do this. And I just think he took it and ran with it. And at his age, like signing up for that for 4 years, I think you could do a lot worse than that.
Joe REXRODE of The Athletic joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Joe, I know you've got another gig that you've got to get to, so we don't want to keep you, but I really appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon to kind of work through this situation a little bit. And obviously we'll see where it goes, but you'd like to see somebody different under center at Nissan this year, I think.
Oh yeah.
But we will see whether they come through the draft or come from somebody who's already in the league, I guess, and we'll be keeping an eye on it. Thanks. Appreciate your insight,
Okay.
man.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Joe.
it.
All right. Hey, let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today. When we come back, we will talk a little hoops. Stick around.
Do you wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Welcome back to Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will give you our top 5 Saturday Night Live cast members. Looking forward to that. There should be a lot to dig into there. Right now we're going to talk a little hoops from the past few days as Tennessee entertained Vanderbilt, looking to even the score in their regular season rivalry after falling at Memorial Gym a couple of weeks ago. And in the first half, did not necessarily look very good. Tennessee trailed by as much as 16, trailed at the half. Zakai Ziegler scored all 22 of his points in the second half, and Tennessee pulled out an 81-76 victory, again to get even on the regular season and to get to 8-5 in SEC play, 21-5 overall. Wait, we talked about this one late last week. Tennessee needed this one.
Yeah, they needed it big, and they got it. And, Rick Barnes challenged his team at halftime. I don't think in the preseason anybody would have thought that we had to have a famous Rick Barnes speech to rally the troops to beat Vanderbilt at home and kind of solidify your footing as a program. But that's kind of where we were. And he said, this is the time of the year where you wilt or you grow. Which one are you going to do? You're going to be in games like this the rest of the year. So like I said, you didn't necessarily think about, the win one for the Gipper type speech versus Vanderbilt at home when we rolled out the preseason rankings, but that's the situation they found themselves in. And to their credit, Tennessee finds a way to gut out a win, a nice victory not so much a nice victory, but in the sense they avoided what would have been a really tough loss.
And that's the tough thing, and that's unfortunate, but that's kind of where Tennessee has gotten to right now. When you win games, there's not a whole lot of attaboys that go with it. When you lose games, it gets really rough, and this was one that they really needed to not lose. So credit to Ziegler and some of those other guys who got off the mat in the second half. Again, they were down by as much as 16. It was 44-31 at the break, and they rallied back, and it started inside. I think I saw where they scored 32 paint points, and that was a concern throughout the preseason whenever we discussed Vanderbilt, was their relative lack of size and how they would hold up if folks decided to pound it inside. Well, Tennessee got inside and converted a lot Saturday in that win. I don't know that it's necessarily a tough loss for Vanderbilt. I almost feel like they're kind of playing with house money at this point. We had talked about them trying to get to 500 in conference play. Right now they're 5-7, so they've got 6 games left. Still a chance for that to be the case. And as good as the Southeastern Conference has been as a whole, Vanderbilt is firmly on the bubble at worst for NCAA tournament play, I would say.
Yeah, and that is true. But if you're Vanderbilt, man, when you're up 16, you're thinking, oh my goodness, we're about to sweep Tennessee. We're about to get a massive road victory, which who knows how the rest of the season plays out. Even if they win that game, who knows how it plays out, obviously losing that game. But that would have been a massive feather in their cap, getting a signature extra road victory like that. And it's not so much that you lose that one, but the only problem is where else are they going to grab wins? Because we've talked about it. Coming up next tomorrow night, they're at Kentucky. This weekend, they take on Ole Miss. Perhaps a winnable game, especially at home. Then they got to go to Texas A&M and Missouri. They're in a murderer's row of a stretch right now. And getting to 500 is kind of a nice goal. But, man, they're going to have to be at their best to kind of achieve that mark because the schedule makers did them no favors down the stretch.
Now, they finish up at home against Arkansas and at Georgia. So –
but where are you at coming out of all that, the meat grinder, I mean, if you drop all of these, man, it's going to be really hard to try and rally the troops, right? I mean, as quote unquote easy as those games are on paper, it will be tough. That's why that Tennessee one really kind of stings. You had them on the ropes, you had them wobbled, and you didn't come away with the victory. It felt like that was one. I'm not going to say they sold out, but it felt like they almost sold out and went for that one. Because it's going to be tough to pick up one from one of these other games, especially Kentucky and Texas A&M on the road.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I didn't get to see much of that one. I didn't get to see much of this one, but apparently the Iron Bowl basketball style lived up. Auburn goes to Alabama, number 1 versus number 2, and picks up a 94-85 victory, and toilet paper sold out in Auburn, apparently.
Yeah, great game. I mean, it kind of had that game of the year feeling coming in, and it kind of had that game of the year vibe throughout the entire night. And it was an epic performance by both teams. And Auburn, in control. And then here comes Bama charging. Just couldn't get over the hump. Had it tied late in the game. Had a couple gimmies maybe that just didn't fall. And then Auburn does what a team of their caliber does. They found a way to get just enough stops and just enough buckets down the stretch to pick up the win. But, yeah, that was your game of the year in college basketball this season. It was a blast. And we got it, on a national stage, you got Broome with 19 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists and 2 blocks just for good measure. He delivered an epic individual performance. Auburn kind of showing their muscle on the road versus Bama.
Is that enough
for Broome?
For National Player of the Year?
Unfortunately not, because I'm not sure if everybody's knowing this, but Cooper Flagg is to roll out and play JV teams in the ACC this year. And, he goes for like 19 and 17 last night. That's all well and good, but he's doing it against the inferior competition. It's going to be tough. It is going to be a true coin flip down the stretch. And it felt like if Auburn had lost that game, or if Broome had kind of taken a night off in a sense and not had a big game, it feels like Flagg would have sewed it up the other night. But by Broome delivering his performance, it feels like the race is back on between them two.
And I wonder, though, Wade, if enough discerning voters are going to recognize who each of them is putting those numbers up against, to your point.
You would maybe like to think there's something that's been in ancient lore, and it's called a white superstar at Duke. We've seen this tale before, right, Mo? That has a magical power that just magically gets you a lot of extra votes. And you can't take away what Duke is doing. Yes, they're winning the games. It's not as if they're losing. But, man, it kind of feels like that little aura. The Coach K fairy dust is still floating around. And Broome is going to have to win this award because it doesn't feel like Flagg is going to lose it, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfectly good sense. I'll tell you, National Freshman of the Year award on the women's side should be sewed up, because I don't know of another freshman in the country that has had 2 50-point games in one season. Michaela Blake's coming off of a 53-point game against Florida a couple of weeks ago, goes for 55, leading Vanderbilt past Auburn in overtime yesterday. Scored 11 of her points in the overtime as the Commodores won that one 98-88. Set up the overtime by hitting 3 free throws with less than a second remaining to force the tie. This young lady has been something special. And as former Vanderbilt men's guard Matthew Fisher Davis said in his Twitter account yesterday, how do I contribute directly to her NIL? That's an unfortunate place that we've gotten to in collegiate athletics right now, but I mean, Shea Ralph kind of has to recruit her every day, right?
Absolutely. And I forget, we may have been Elena that was with us last week or someone 2 weeks ago. As great a season as Vanderbilt is having, any future plans have to revolve around her, and you have to do whatever it takes to keep her on campus. And unfortunately, Vanderbilt, in their current construct, is not in that upper tier, that upper echelon of college basketball. So the callers will come for her services. Can you fend them off? It's going to be interesting.
And it's a lot, there's a lot of tradition with Vanderbilt women's basketball, but it's tradition, and little of it is current. And like you said, the resources to keep this roster intact may or may not necessarily be there. And it's got to be a question of, do you want to go chase a bag? Do you want to go somewhere where something that's already in place, or do you want to help revive a program and get it back to where it has been in the past? And I don't know how that all plays out. And obviously she's going to say all the right things, and that coaching staff is going to say all the right things here as we sit on February 18th. But like you said, the calls are going to come. They're not supposed to, but they're going to. And, it's going to get real interesting, unfortunately, for Vanderbilt, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And, it will be interesting to see, who potentially, and obviously if she loves Vanderbilt, loves the program and wants to stay there, then, it's kind of a done deal. But if the calls come, she is a New Jersey native. And, this is the sneaky cousin of a superstar at Duke, Mo, but Sarah Strong at UConn. You don't really have to say much more. Freshman at UConn, be careful for Michaela. In terms of winning the award this year. But now I'm thinking, what's Gino thinking? I could really kind of like what this girl from Vanderbilt's doing. Hey, why don't you come back a little closer to home, team up with Sarah Strong next year? and maybe we could really kind of dominate women's college basketball. It's
He wouldn't do that to one of his former players, would he?
you know, you wouldn't think so, but I mean, hey, it's 2025. It's cold out here in these streets.
It's 2025, and I ain't got a whole lot of years left, said Gino. Wow, that's you can connect the dots right there. I mean, ugly as it sounds, it's doesn't make it unrealistic.
But that's not to diminish in any way, shape, form, or fashion what she has done this year, because not only has Vanderbilt been impressive, she certainly has been outstanding.
Yeah, and you know, Vanderbilt kind of found themselves on the wrong end of things there for a while yesterday at Auburn, and she rallies them back. And it's just tough to imagine 53 and 55 in the same season. I mean, she set the freshman single game scoring record for the conference with that 53, and that was like third nationally, behind Elena Deladon at Delaware, who had scored 54 back in 2010. So she comes out and breaks the national record. It's like, tell her what the record is and then watch her go. So she is the first Division I women's basketball player to put up multiple 50-point games in a season since it was done twice in 2015-2016. Rachel Banham from Minnesota and Jasmine Nwaje from Wagner did it twice that year. So wonder who will be at the top of Oklahoma's scout for Thursday's game.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard, right? That's the only problem is you know who's getting the ball, you know who's going to try and score, and some teams have not been able to do that. So, yeah, best of luck. Kind of glad I'm not a part of that coaching staff and having to draw up a plan there.
And the thing about her is, man, when you watch her, I mean, she is that classic 3-level scorer. If you play her too heavy on the 3, she'll go by you, and she can pull up, or she can get to the rim. I mean, she's just fun to watch, man. And, you know, if you are a Vanderbilt fan, I hate to rain on your long-term parade, but you just have to kind of hope that you get to enjoy her in black and gold for another 3 years. And again, that's just kind of where we are in college athletics at this point. But as you said, take nothing away from what she has done to this point and what she did yesterday. 55 in a 10-point overtime win at Auburn. Huge win for the Commodores. Tennessee had to come back against Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been giving a lot of folks problems, man. Gave Tennessee problems as well. Kept it close. I think Coach Caldwell kind of got them refocused midway through the third quarter, and they pulled away for an 80-71 victory at home against Ole Miss. Jewel Spear with 28 points. They moved to 19-6 overall, 6-6 in the league, 8th place in the conference. Those numbers don't necessarily dictate that, but man, it's a deep conference, obviously. Big win for UT coming off the week that they had with that loss to LSU after beating UConn previously. They kind of needed something to get themselves resteadied, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing for Tennessee, right? You've been having a great season. There have been some highs, there have been some quote unquote lows. But as long as you can kind of just keep stacking wins, they got a tough one coming up versus Alabama on Thursday night. That'll be a big time showdown between two top 20 programs. So if you can kind of just stay the course, we certainly have seen them. They're capable of beating anybody. That is evident now. Now the trickiness will be navigating these final 4 games of their regular season and trying to avoid any stumbles. They close with Bama, at Florida, at Kentucky, and then home to Georgia. So if they can navigate those waters, they'll be in really good shape heading into the SEC tournament.
Yeah. You say Tennessee can beat anybody. That anybody includes UConn. They downed them 80-76 a couple of weeks ago. UConn kind of on a redemption tour since, went down to Colonial Life Arena over in Columbia on Sunday and snapped South Carolina's 71-game home win streak in decisive fashion, 87-58. Never was close. And I guess everybody can have a stinker every now and then. You wouldn't necessarily expect South Carolina to do so at home, but that was the case. And you mentioned Sarah Strong a little bit ago, 16 points, 13 boards for UConn, which had lost its last 4 games to South Carolina prior to Sunday.
Yeah, and this is one that kind of reverberates around college basketball. It feels now after that loss by South Carolina, whatever little there was still a little tiny pocket maybe that was clinging to, hey, it's South Carolina's title to lose. It feels like the race is officially on. This thing is wide open, and now the question will be, how wide open is it? UConn is kind of staking their claim on the corner, as it were, for the supremacy. But it feels like there's a number of different teams now that could win this thing, which means the tournament should be a lot of fun.
It feels like there's a number of teams that can win it. It feels like there's a number of teams in the SEC, looking at you, Texas, that can win it. So, yeah, this thing it feels wide open when you start talking about UCLA, which lost to USC. When you start talking about Notre Dame, obviously UConn says, hey, don't forget about us. So, it's going to be fun seeing where those top 4 seeds go to start with, and then what happens once we get into the NCAA tournament. Oh, South Carolina's 23-3 with that loss.
Yeah, right. And that tells you the level of dominance we're talking about. We're kind of, for the first time, having some questions about a program because they lost their 3rd game to a team that's now ranked number 1, right? I mean, that's the type of dominance we've seen from that program. So they, it'll be interesting, right? They haven't taken, man, I mean, when's the last time they lost 3 games in the regular season? It feels like it's been an eternity. And so that this run they've been on, they've kind of just been the bully to everybody. And now they've kind of taken a shot in the mouth, and it'll be interesting to see how they respond. And it's not as if they have this, as you just mentioned, the SEC is so competitive this year. It's not as if they have this stranglehold on the league. So now all of a sudden that race is seemingly wide open.
You know who I don't want to be right now, though? Arkansas.
Oof. Up next?
Yeah. In Columbia.
Arkansas, 9-18 on the year, 2-10 in league play. Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thoughts and prayers. Wade, was Mac McClung winning the slam dunk contest the highlight of the NBA All-Star weekend?
I guess. Man, this was an unusual one, and nobody really felt great. It seems like about any night. Friday night maybe was kind of fun, but Saturday was kind of Sunday was certainly kind of Saturday, I'm not going to lie, I didn't watch much, if any, of Saturday night's coverage, which is absolute rarity for me. I was glued to USA Canada all night on Saturday. And McClung, props to him for coming out and at least interjecting a little sign of life into what was kind of, it's turned into basically, and many folks have said this, so I'm not reinventing the wheel here. It's basically a corporate event. It's a corporate shill event, kind of with a few little games and a few little gimmicks kind of thrown in. It lacked a lot of substance, it felt like, this weekend.
That's not a great review from an NBA fan on the events of this weekend. I mean, I for various reasons I didn't watch, but I've not gotten a whole lot of positives out of the weekend, and that's not a great place to be, I don't think. It feels like the least compelling All-Star game / weekend of any in the 4 major sports, and that's including the NFL.
Yeah, and it feels like all of a sudden the players have kind of even turned in a sense. Kevin Durant even coming out and saying, maybe we should just do away with this thing, right? I mean, it is the whole cool thing about it, and maybe that just is a bygone era, but the whole cool thing is everybody gets together. I mean, it is a cultural event, right? And I mean, everybody wanted to be there. Everybody wanted, whether they were playing or not. And, the debate about, defense being played in the All-Star game notwithstanding, obviously that's kind of a trope at this point, but everybody kind of just enjoying the weekend. And then this weekend, it was kind of just just blah. You had LeBron sitting out announcing just, an hour or two before that he's not going to play. Anthony Edwards didn't play. And Anthony Edwards is the one guy that feels like he might be ready to take the torch and carry that, Kobe style in terms of competitive nature into this thing. And him sitting out, it just kind of was a dud. Doesn't necessarily mean it's an indictment of the thing. I mean, we're talking about an exhibition game at the end of everything. But it certainly feels like it lost a little bit of luster this weekend. I hate to say.
Yeah, and that's tough because the NBA already doesn't have a whole lot going for it in various corners, but then to lose kind of your crown jewel other than the postseason, and to be getting that type of reaction, even from the folks that are participating in it, it's not a great situation to be in, you wouldn't think. Speaking of LeBron.
Hey, real quick, when the highlight of the weekend is Wemby admitting that they cheated in the skills competition, just think about what I just said. That's not a good look for your league. That was kind of ridiculous. That whole event has kind of morphed into pretty ridiculousness, and then Wemby kind of made a real mockery of it and then admitted that he cheated. So I mean,
did they have to admit it?
I mean, the crazy part is you got Chris Paul, the perfect villain, sitting there right by your side. He would love nothing more than to eat it up and say, oh yeah, I figured out a way how to hack this thing. And then Wemby goes out. Wemby's the beloved, up and coming phenom, and he just tells on himself and said, no, it was my idea. I mean, he looked like he was shooting Papa Shot out of Dave and Buster's, right? I mean, it was ridiculous.
LeBron, taken off from the All-Star game, had time apparently to get on X, Twitter, whatever y'all want to call it, and take Doug Gottlieb to task, the sports talk show host / Wisconsin Green Bay men's basketball coach, apparently in that order. They snapped a 21-game losing streak with a 79-68 win over Horizon League rival Wright State. But LeBron, again, excuse me, taking the time to take a shot at Gottlieb. Earned 2, not given. Got to give him credit, though, with a bunch of laughing emojis and another emoji that we won't describe. But Doug Gottlieb and Green Bay have not won a basketball game in 3 months. The Phoenix are currently 2-24. Now, again, they turned that to some degree with that 11-point win over Wright State on Sunday. But apparently there's beef between Gottlieb and James. Gottlieb called James a bad basketball parent and criticized how the Lakers treated Bronny. Said he thought Bronny could start for Green Bay, despite Bronny being a touted prospect who ultimately signed with Southern Cal, as you well know. So Gottlieb hired last May, and Wade, you and I talked about this whole situation, how he was going to be allowed to continue his national sports talk show on Fox Radio. Apparently, he dipped out of practice prior to Super Bowl 59 to be on Radio Row, I guess. Again, 3-24, 1 win in conference play. Their last win prior had been back on November 19th against SIU Edwardsville of the Ohio Valley Conference. So certainly making himself available for shots such as these. And again, LeBron loading up while he was sitting on the bench during the All-Star game, I guess.
Yeah, it feels a little low-hanging fruit and feels like LeBron should probably be above. LeBron is above Doug Gottlieb. I think everybody on the planet can agree with that. So it does feel a little cheap, but also, I mean, this is what you sign up for if you're Doug Gottlieb. And I mean, there's got to be some other deeper thing, right? I mean, this is a ratings ploy, if nothing's else, right? I mean, you take this job, you have all these weird rules, you get to keep your radio show. Obviously, it's not working out kind of like everybody thought it would. And, maybe after a year, get, a nice little quick paycheck to go back to your radio show. And then you kind of play the villain card even further if you want on your radio. It could be, some ratings gold for him. But it just felt, I mean, LeBron's above that, but I do get, especially considering it was a little bit personal with Gottlieb going at him first.
Yeah, absolutely. Hour number 1 here of Top 5 Tuesday is in the books. When we come back for hour number 2 here on Main Street Sports Today, we will be joined by the Blue Raider voice, the pride of the dimple, TSSAA 25 Hall of Famer, Chip Walters. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilai Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In our final segment, Wade and I will be giving you our top 5 Saturday Night Live cast members in commemoration of their 50th anniversary that they celebrated over the weekend. Right now, our favorite funny guy from Murfreesboro, Chip Walters, joins us. Chip, good afternoon.
I know you're going to talk about characters. What is your favorite ongoing bit on Saturday Night Live?
I think it's the news, the update with Michael Che and Colin Yost.
That's right. Well, I mean, and I almost didn't count. I was kind of thinking that, but it does fit. But my other, I think, has to be Celebrity Jeopardy.
Tom Hanks, where you at?
Oh,
That's right,
Yeah.
Doug.
Yeah, Kenan Thompson as Alex Trebek is guaranteed money in the bank right there. Yeah.
Rob
So
Farrell as Trebek, with with Sean Connery on there. So the game is afoot, Trebek. So
that's good stuff. Chip, good weekend for MTSU athletics, it seems.
Basketball had a really good Saturday, both men and women. Lady Raiders they avenged their only loss in 3+ seasons in Conference USA with a 10-point win over Western Kentucky. Middle pretty much once after the first quarter, pretty much led the rest of the way. Spread things out toward the end, and then the men. I mean, you talk about just a great game to watch. The Middle Western Kentucky men's game Saturday night. I would think the folks at CBS, had to be pretty happy with the products they had. It had a really nice crowd in Bowling Green. Always a good atmosphere for that matchup, and then the way that game started with, with what was almost a horse game at the beginning was just tremendous. And for the first time in 5+ years, Middle ended up with 3 players with 20+ points in the ball game. Just really balanced and got the victory on the road to get the sweep. There's a lot of things you can pull out of the stat sheet, not only for that game, but also what it meant. It's the 22nd. It's the 11th time in 110 years that Middle has swept both ends of the regular season matchups with Western. And for Nick McDevitt, I'm not sure you can write a better script, get your 100th win outside of getting it on your home floor than to get it on the floor of your rival at Diddle Arena, and with your team really playing well. It was a proud night to be the head coach for sure.
Absolutely. And the way this conference is shaping up, obviously every as we've always said, wins on the road are even huger, I guess.
I call them double good, and there's what I think 3 teams maybe right now have winning records on the road. Middle being one of them. The Blue Raiders picked up their 4th road win in league play on Saturday. Jacksonville State, who's in first place, has 4 road wins. Liberty has the most road wins. They've won 5 on the road and lost 2. But Jack State is the only school in the league that has gone undefeated at home. Everybody else has had a chink in the armor somewhere along the way. But it makes for a tight race. You've got Jack State, then you've got Liberty and Middle just a game back in the loss column. Liberty's played one more game and has one more win. But there's been a little bit of a spread at the bottom. Sam Houston and FIU now with 10 losses, but the first 8 are within 4 games of the lead. And so it's still, with 3 weeks to play, 6 games for most everybody. There's a lot going on. And now you start looking, okay, who has more home games left? Who's got to go on the road? Things like that. And Middle right now, to be honest, Middle and Western Kentucky have about as good a schedule as you could get. You've got 4 home games remaining, and your road trip is to UTEP and New Mexico State. UTEP, which both of those are very good teams, so it's shaping up. There's a lot of scoreboard watching to be done here in the next 3 weeks.
Chip, as you've been with the team and, sitting here today, 17-8, 8-4 in the league, kind of grade them in your mind? Are they hitting their stride? Are they hitting a new level, or is there still kind of a higher plane for them to potentially ascend to in your mind?
Well, I had last night on Coach McDevitt's radio show, we had Jalen Counter and Cam Weston on, and I'm not gonna make a grade on it. I will tell you what they said.
Okay.
And both of those guys said that they feel like that the best basketball for this team is still yet to come. While they've had great streaks, like for instance at Western Kentucky, they got off to a great start, had a strong finish, and also were very good in the middle 8 minutes of the game. They feel like that there's still a better 40 minutes in them somewhere along the way, and I think as a mature team, that's a very healthy outlook to have. I don't think Saturday was very satisfying, no question about that, going on the road and winning at Western Kentucky. But it's very healthy to always be humble and hungry. And this team is mature enough to have that type of attitude on a day in, day out basis.
Chip, when they say that their best basketball is ahead of them, what do they point to as far as that goes?
Well, and I asked that specific question, especially to Jalen last night, and he pointed to the fact that they have not, Middle has not been as dominant a rebounding team as he thinks they should be yet, and they've had their moments, but on a night in, night out basis, it, like the other night against Western, I think it was, one rebound one way or the other. But he feels like they can be better on the offensive glass, and they've shown streaks of that. In particular, in the non-conference, Isam Mustafa was really, really good on the offensive glass. You've run into some teams that had really good and bigger post players that have negated some of that, but I think, again, going back to what when they are at a point where, and I hear coaches say this a lot of times, when you have a team that not only disciplines itself, but can self-diagnose, that makes, that's a fun team to coach, because these guys have played basketball for a long time. They've all been on good teams. They've all been on teams that have had its struggles, and they're old enough now to know that it's more fun being on a good team, and they know the things that it takes to be on one, and they're all really enjoying this, and it's fun to watch them, because we've talked about them being there's not a teenager on the roster. Everybody is 20 or above. And that, this is a group that when they check in the hotel, they want to know, okay, how much sleep can I get? How much, I want to take care of my body. I need to get off my feet. I need to make sure I'm eating right. Those kind of things. They know that rest, recovery, nutrition, they're old enough and smart enough to know all of those things are very important, and are taking advantage of that, and that goes a long way when you're talking about a 32 game regular season plus postseason tournament. So they're enjoying the ride, but they're being smart about it, I think.
I would think that goes a long way as far as your coaching staff as well too, Chip, because you're not having to coach that, which means either A, you can take a deep breath, or B, you can coach something else.
That's right. And most of the time you hear, and in particular, football coaches talk about is if they don't have to coach effort, that's a big deal. And Nick McDevitt and his staff, they don't have to coach effort. They don't, there are reminders around about rest and, recovery and nutrition. He always makes the point, a lot of times the last thing before we get off the bus after a road trip, or somewhere, after, you get the meal before a game, the night before. There are reminders there, but it's not having to be drilled into these guys, and they're very businesslike. It's really interesting that this group enjoys being around each other as much as any team I've ever traveled with, and there's not a lot of cliques. There's a certain video game that they play a lot of times. It's a collective type game to where they can all be part of it. And I'm trying to think. I think the name of it's Who Among Us. It's basically a version of Clue that happens to be on your phone. It's like a murder mystery type game that they play. It's a very interactive, and we can be in an airport somewhere, and they're all over there in a big circle, they all looking in their phones, and the next thing you know, you hear a big hee-haw, and everybody, guffawing and laughing because somebody's done something in the game. But they enjoy being around each other, and they're talking ball all the time. Whether they're talking about other teams in the league, the NBA talk about the Jordan or LeBron or Kobe conversation never ends.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's incessant. It just never ends. And I'd say, oh, y'all, okay, I'm just telling you, Jordan and Bird, and let's be done with it. And but
how does that go over, Chip?
That's the old man in me showing up.
How does that go over when you drop that on the youngins there?
I said, that's old school game. We're talking about new school over here. So, but there's a lot of Isam Mustafa in particular. He's one that he's a big LeBron guy. So it's always kind of fun to poke him because he likes to poke the bear back.
Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Obviously, Chip, a lot more discussion about the men just because the women are pretty much doing what they're supposed to do these days, taking care of business against Western Kentucky and everybody else, as you said, avenging their only loss in conference play with that win Saturday.
Yeah, they're 11-1 now, and they're in a really good spot to run this thing out and get to the tournament down in Huntsville. And so now you're starting to get a little more talk about the tournament, and everybody's getting kind of excited about that because there will also be a trip to Liberty, who is right behind them, but Little's already got one win over them. So that comes up the final week of the regular season, and that'll be on a Thursday night. That appears right now to be the biggest potential stumbling block. Of course, it's never easy going into Ruston, Louisiana, which they'll do this week, and on Thursday to take on the Lady Texters. That building in particular on the women's side, holds just a ton of tradition in there. And you've got some pretty good jerseys hanging out of the rafters there. Everybody from Kim Mulkey to Leon Barmore to Venus Lacey. There's a lot of tradition there, but Middle they would quickly retort to tell you there's a lot of banners hanging in Murphy Center too, with some blue and silver. So I don't think they will go into Ruston with anything but a great deal of confidence and a good plan to go in against Louisiana Tech, and then to turn it around at Sam Houston. Now, this is kind of a bit of a tough road trip, and there's, I'll tell you part of the reason, and I say that is, here we are, we're talking about snow coming in tonight, and they're flying out in the morning. So, there's a bit of anxiety of how is the travel going to be out of B&A in the morning, because they've got a flight to Atlanta and then and connect over to Monroe, Louisiana. So there's some anxiety as far as that is concerned. And then it's not an easy trip in the sense that you do have to make that double leg flight to get to Monroe. Then after the game on Thursday night, they will bus 4 hours over to Huntsville, Texas, to for the game on Saturday afternoon. But and that's we've made that bus ride earlier in the year. It's a solid 4 hours between Ruston and Huntsville, and it's not like you're on a straight line interstate. It's hard to get sleep on that bus because you're going through a lot of little towns and you're making a lot of turns and all that. But that they have a veteran team too, and so I think they'll be prepared for it. I think the biggest thing that will be a relief to the coaching staff is if the flight gets out of Nashville on time in the morning.
And it's what is it about that swing and bad weather, Chip? Something telling y'all not to go. You mentioned Nick's 100th win. It appears he's not the only coach on campus to recently celebrate a win milestone.
That's right. Jimmy Borendame picked up win number 250, and he did it against Oklahoma State. And and Jimmy is he's kind of the Bobby Bowden of Blue Raider tennis, and it's like anytime, anywhere, anytime, or anybody, he loves to what you would call quote unquote schedule up. And in the world of tennis, he has built Middle's program into a powerhouse that to where the power conferences don't mind coming to the Adams Tennis Complex or outdoors at the MTSU Tennis Complex. That in their world, Middle is a powerhouse in college tennis, and again, just another example of that with Middle getting a 5-2 win over the Cowboys again at the ATC the other day. So Jimmy's had a vision all along since he got to Murfreesboro on what he wanted, and it was about building facilities, and he has been able to see that through. And not only does Jimmy have a dream, it comes along with a sledgehammer behind that dream, and he's going to drive his point home about whatever it is. But you think about the long history of Middle Tennessee tennis, going back to Buck Bolden and the LaLance family that has done so much. Jimmy Borendame has taken it to a whole new level, and to be part of a brand new indoor facility, 4 or 5 years old now, that is as good as any in the country, and a new $8 million outdoor facility that rivals any in college tennis. His legacy is insured for what all he has done at Middle Tennessee, and to reach a milestone like 250 wins is very special, because you're not playing 30 matches a year in tennis a lot of times. But Jimmy, I like to say he coaches tennis like a football coach. And if you ever go watch his team play, they have a toughness on the court, and it's a reflection of their head coach.
You got to like that. What else did we have this weekend, Chip? I know we had baseball. I know we had softball. Bring us up to speed.
Softball again, going to another tournament, and I don't have it in front of me, but one thing I do want to make mention of here, starting on the 22nd, which will be Saturday, Middle and Second Harvest Food Bank have a longtime promotion called Spread the Love, and on athletic events on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and even into through next Thursday, fans are invited to bring spreadable food items, aka peanut butter, almond butter, jellies, jams, things like that, to help restock the shelves at Second Harvest Food Bank. And so there's 420 partner agencies that work with Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee, and it's a 46 county area that they take care of out of their Nashville and Smyrna locations. So invite people, stock up on some peanut butter and jellies and jams and others. Bring even if you want to bring some Vegemite, that's spreadable. You could do that. And if you want to play a prank on somebody, but help out the Second Harvest Food Bank, because they're helping an awful lot of people.
Chip, while we're talking some other great causes and great initiatives, give us a review from Blue Bloods in the round last week.
Man, what a great event! I do know that they sold just under 300 tickets to that event at the Humble Baron, which made for a really good crowd in that environment. They could probably sell 100 more if and when they do it again. But I got there about 10 minutes after 6 last Thursday, and the first round of songwriters, which were MTSU students, were on stage, and they had already started. So they played for about an hour, and a lot of their new stuff, and was very well received. A quick little break there, and then the pros came on, and it included several MTSU alums, a couple of folks who did not necessarily have MTSU ties, but they were kind of friend of a friend kind of deal, that showed up. Natalie Hemby was one of those. Mike Reed was one of those. I had a chance to talk to Mike after it was over, but there's a guy named Luke Laird. He is one of the most successful songwriters to come out of the College of Media and Entertainment. He is a multiple Grammy award-winning songwriter. Natalie Hemby's won a Grammy. Mike Reed is, again, he's not a middle grad. He played defensive tackle at Penn State and then for the Cincinnati Bengals. But he was on stage, and he did probably his biggest hit that he has written, which was Stranger in My House, that Ronnie Millsap had a monster hit with back in the 80s. And but he, the pros in particular, they've got the age and dare I say, they've got some bark on them. Mo, you know where that comes from. They've got that bark on them, that they've got some stories about, how they got songs, or how, they've done it enough to where there've been, really good stories. It was about a 3-hour event that, in a terrific atmosphere at Uncle Nearest Distillery and the Humble Baron Bar and Grill. It will not be the last one of these type of events. It's everybody in the country is now trying to find a unique way. How do you raise money for your NIL? Well, Middle Tennessee did a great job of looking within itself and saying, okay, what assets do we have that we can put out there and come together? And when you had athletics come together with the College of Media and Entertainment and put this event on, it was a win-win for everybody.
Clearly, and I'm sure that won't be the last time that we see Blue Bloods in the round. Chip Walters, Blue Raider voice, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Baseball is at Alabama. First pitch in about a half an hour.
That's good.
Hopefully they can beat the bad weather with that as well. Appreciate you taking some time with us as always, and look forward to catching up with you next week.
We will do it. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Hey, and get your bread and milk.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let's take a break here on Main Street Sports today. When we come back to Top 5 Tuesday, it'll be the grab bag. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will be giving you our top 5 Saturday Night Live cast members, so be sure and stick around for that. Right now, it's the grab bag, and we start with a little bit of breaking news, courtesy of friend of the show, John Bryce from footballscoop.com. Former Tennessee Titans quarterback Zach Mettenberger has been named head coach at Father Ryan High School. Apparently he is replacing former coach Chad Broderick. Mettenberger had been on the staff there as offensive coordinator and strength and conditioning coach and has been elevated. Previously was an assistant at Hillsborough High School. Also spent a couple of seasons on the staff at Alabama under Nick Saban. And again, came back last year as an assistant before stepping up into the head coaching role. It's becoming QB Central here in Nashville with Tim Hasselbeck over at Ensworth. Engel Martin has been at Christ Presbyterian for an extended period of time. Engel spent time on the Titans roster at one point as well, I believe. Hasselbeck, can't remember. But obviously a lot of NFL flavor in this town for obvious reasons, and Father Ryan trying to take advantage of that. Mettenberger played his college ball at LSU, again, spent some time with the Titans here, and is now moving into the head coaching ranks locally, trying to help a Father Ryan program get back. The last state championship for Ryan came back in 1997. So playing in Division 2, 3A alongside the Ensworths and the Brentwood Academies and the Montgomery Bell Academies of the world, and trying to get that program back to that stature. So interesting.
Yeah, certainly a splashy hire. Obviously helps that he's got some familiarity with the program. But, Father Ryan, pretty good season last year, right? I mean, kind of a nice little turnaround. 7-4 after winning 3 or 4 games the last couple of years. And, hopefully you build on that. And you're right. It does add kind of to the list of not just quarterbacks, but kind of, notable names. Bobby Bentley, who's been on this program and, done some great things at BGA, getting them to the runner-up finish this year. Seems like the private schools have kind of almost banded together and say, hey, we need to elevate our game a little bit. The ones that were already elevated, they got to kind of start looking over their shoulders a little bit, because it seems like there's an investment in coaching, and it seems like some programs that maybe have been down for a while are trying to get on the comeback.
Absolutely. I mean, just from a optics standpoint, when you can add somebody with the resume of a Zach Mettenberger as your head coach, it's got to have a little bit of an impact. In addition to his time with the Titans, where he was drafted in 2014, he also spent time with the Chargers and Steelers, played with the Memphis Express in the Alliance of American Football, the AAF, and then again went into coaching first with Hillsborough, spent some time at Ryan, went down to Alabama and came back, and now is in the big office over on Norwood Drive. So congratulations to him. Let's talk a little Daytona, as William Byron went 2 for 2 this weekend. One of 5 guys to win back-to-back Daytona 500s. Had to kind of dodge the debris late to get this one Sunday night after a long rain-induced layoff. So big win for him to get the season started.
Yeah, Daytona, there's always some theatrics. And some years the weather is the theatrical production there. And we saw that. And we talked, last week they moved the race up a little bit in an effort to get the rain. I think they got like 20 laps in before they just kind of had to shut it down. And man, that's got to be frustrating, right? Any sport, a weather delay is one of the worst things you can have. But to know that you're just, you're kind of getting in your groove, kind of finding your stride there, and then you just kind of are parked literally for a while. I mean, I was in and out of the Daytona coverage all day. I didn't watch a ton of the actual race. I watched probably more of the downtime than I did the actual racing. And so to that extent, William Byron, nice win. And, there were some notable crashes. Man, it feels like you almost are lucky to survive that race. If you can survive not having a crash, it feels like you're going to have a pretty good shot to win every year almost.
Yeah, if you can steer clear of all the wreckage, it feels like you're going to be in pretty good shape, like you said. And to your point about the stoppages, one was for 3 hours and some change, another was for 20 minutes. So, yeah, it's a pretty good chance that if you flipped it over there, they were not racing. But, yeah, Byron finishes up out front. Trying to see who he was ahead of ultimately. I think it was Denny Hamlin. Hamlin and Austin Cindric maybe were your top 3. Let me see if I can figure this out real quick. Come on. No, I'm sorry. It was Byron, Tyler Reddick, Jimmy Johnson were your top three. Chase Briscoe finished fourth. John Hunter Nemechek fifth. Bowman and Blaney 6 and 7. And Cindric was eighth. Justin Algair was ninth. Chris Buescher finished out the top 10. So again, Byron 1 of 5 to win back-to-back Daytona 500s. So again, nice way to get the season started for him.
Yeah, it's good way to kick it off. Obviously, the weather kind of, in some regards, it obviously makes for a weird and kind of yucky afternoon, and who knows what that did to potential viewership. But also, it can kind of produce, anytime there is a long rain delay, whether it's any sport really, things just kind of get weird and wonky. And the folks that have stuck it out, whether that's in the stands or, watching on TV, you're kind of just in this weird trance, and you don't know if the thing is ever actually going to conclude. But I will be curious to see, how the numbers stacked up compared to previous years. And a good little way to start. Obviously, at the end of the day, any time, whether it's day or night, rain or shine, anytime you're out at Daytona is going to compel a lot of folks to tune in. So I'm curious to see what the viewership looks like.
Yeah, I mean, to see who stuck around for it, like you said, will be interesting to kind of check in on.
I'll tell you, it was, like I said, I ended up watching more of the delay than I watched the actual race. And by the time we were actually getting closer to the finish line, the White Lotus season premiere was coming on. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, NASCAR, but we ain't missing season 3 premiere here. So I had to tune it off. And Byron gets the win. Our guy, Ross Chastain, he didn't do so hot. He got caught up. Man, there were so many wrecks, and it just felt like I said, it was a war of attrition more than anything out there on Sunday.
As we said, Byron becomes the 5th guy to win back-to-back Daytona 500s. Leading that parade is Richard Petty, who did so in 73 and 74. Cale Yarborough in 83 and 84. Spring Hill's own Sterling Marlin in 94 and 95. And Denny Hamlin in 2019 and 2020. So that's pretty illustrious list that Mr. Byron joins there with back-to-back Daytona 500s there. And anytime we get to talk a little bit about the local legend Sterling Marlin, that's a good thing. So again, congrats to him. Ludwig Abear wins the Genesis Invitational finally, and it got off to, as we said last week, a rough start early in the week, but apparently it kind of evened out a little bit.
Yeah, didn't watch much coverage, but I did see he was in the mix, and I've seen a lot of chatter. He was kind of a sneaky pick even on Sunday to maybe make a run at that thing, and I kind of looked at the leaderboard and said, I don't know if he's going to pull this off. But props for getting it done, and props to everybody for, kind of like Daytona, surviving, right? We said last week it was gross out there.
Yeah. Finished a stroke ahead of Maverick McNeely. Shot a 6 under 66 on Sunday to close things out. So now it's on to the Mexico Open, where we will see the return of former Brentwood Academy standout Blades Brown. He will make his second start of the season south of the border on Thursday. So looking forward to how that goes for him. We had a chance to talk to him a couple of weeks ago. He seemed pretty excited about, the way things went in his first start at the Amex, and to get back at it down here this week. And sure, he's been busting it here over the interim, getting ready for that.
Yeah, this will be a fun event for Blades. Obviously, get to dip your toe back into the PGA waters, but also this is kind of I'm not going to say a throwaway tournament, but a lot of the notable names are going to take this week off and kind of get ready for the Arnold Palmer and the players that are coming up. including Maverick McNeely, who has already announced he's withdrawn from the tournament. So, maybe the field thins out. Maybe Blades throws some darts like we saw him do at times in round 2 in his first go this year. And, we'll it'd be fun to keep tabs on. If he plays like he did the first 2 rounds in his opener earlier this year, this could be a lot of fun to watch this weekend.
Absolutely. Let's hope for that. As we mentioned, the Four Nations face-off has its championship game set for Thursday, and it's the U.S. and Canada. Should be spicy.
Got what we wanted, right? And yes, Saturday night, I was talking with the wife and I was texting a few friends. That moment, Saturday night, the sheer theater of what they were producing, and this kind of bleeds into the NBA All-Star talk. We're not talking about the Olympics. We're not talking about a world championship. This is kind of almost a made-up tournament as an excuse, a pseudo All-Star game, if you will. And man, I was on the edge of my seat. I was not that invested in just the drama of things. Got to go back to the 100-meter dash from last year's Olympics, which were just out of this world before Noah pulls it off. And then that was before the puck dropped. And then the puck drops, and we have 3 fights in the first 9 seconds. The Kachuk brothers just absolutely running roughshod. I mean, it looked like a scene from Roadhouse out on the ice, and it was epic. USA got a 3-1 win. That put Canada in a tough spot yesterday, but they took care of business, and we get the matchup that we want for all the marbles. The USA has not won a tournament in a best-on-best format since 1996. So this is a massive moment coming up Thursday that was kind of created out of thin air. Everybody loves it now, and it feels like the NHL has just out of thin air created this cool event, giving a rest to the players that aren't playing, but then also kind of creating some high stakes for an event that was just a figment of our imagination a year or 2 ago.
Meanwhile, while you say the U.S. hasn't won a best-on-best since 96, they may not necessarily be going into this one with their best available. A number of injury situations that threaten to impact the U.S. going into this game. Charlie McAvoy, a D-man from the Boston Bruins, missed the Sweden matchup with an upper body injury and will miss Thursday's game. Quinn Hughes from Vancouver is set to replace him, but McAvoy is out. Matthew Tkachuk missed the latter part of Saturday's matchup with Canada. Says he plans to play Thursday. Brady Tkachuk left Monday's game with an undisclosed injury. Should not hinder him from suiting up Thursday. Austin Matthews with an upper body injury held out Monday. The roster may be a little thin, and I guess they've got mechanisms to replace those folks, but clearly the replacements are replacements. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and some of that a little bit yesterday, though, was just the function that the game for the U.S. was meaningless. And Canada had already – the only real thing would have been interesting. Canada wins in regulation, but if they had won in overtime, they still technically would have needed the U.S. to do them a solid. So we were you know what I mean? I love chaos. I was kind of hoping that was going to happen. It'd be a real shame if the U.S. just rested everybody and kept Canada out of the gold medal match. But also a shout-out. Our boy Nyquist from the Preds, he had the equalizer yesterday for Sweden before they do get the win. But, yeah, hopefully some of those guys are back. That was probably just a maintenance and rest because you had nothing to play for yesterday.
Where is that supposed to take place, Wade?
That's in Boston.
Okay.
Saturday was in Montreal. You know, it was epic. They had the Mounties out. They had the anthems. Canada was booing. And then they had O Canada. I'll be real curious to see if O Canada is greeted with a similar treatment up in Beantown on Thursday night.
No doubt. Let's take a quick break here on Main Street Sports today, our final break of the show. When we come back, it'll be Top 5 Tuesday, our Top 5 SNL cast members. Stick around.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
It's the final segment of Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, which means it's time for Top 5 Tuesday, presented by Mid-South 5 Fitness. Two great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. Whatever shape it is you're in, Thalos Steel will get you in a better one. Find him at Steel Athletes, STEEL athletes.com. Mid-South 5 Fitness bringing you Top 5 Tuesday. And again, this is typically based on something that has taken place or something that's triggered something for Wade and I recently. Sunday, Saturday Night Live aired its 50th anniversary celebration. And so we're going to give you our top 5 SNL cast members. And as I said at the start of the show, I've got a list of about 15 here. So hopefully Wade and I won't overlap too greatly, but Wade, the floor is yours.
Well, we'll get the party started. I mean, there really is only one clear choice. And from 1980 to 1984, Eddie Murphy at the top of the world, coming on the scene, 19 years of age, literally has the entertainment world in the palm of his hand. I mean, it's a totally different worldview of Eddie Murphy now. And, I wasn't around for the early onset, but that propelled everything in motion to superstardom, the likes of which, had not been seen almost to that point in terms of crossover. So I got to go with our guy Eddie at number 1 overall. Clear number 1 overall.
He was an absolute rocket, man. It was amazing to watch that evolve starting from SNL. And he was obviously on my list as well, but I'm going to go at number 1 with the late John Belushi. Just side-splittingly funny, man. And, you saw it beyond SNL on, the National Lampoon, Animal House, that kind of thing. I mean, you saw it in the movie with he and Dan Aykroyd, whose name escapes me now, but and this
Blues
guy
Brothers.
was just, yes, thank you, goodness gracious, I'm old. Just one of the funniest guys you would ever come across, and lost way too soon. But John Belushi is my number 1 because I couldn't have Eddie Murphy. Number 2,
gotta roll on here. I'll bring it a little more modern, but Will Ferrell, he may not be pound for pound the best comedian that's ever walked, but he does a great job of selling the sizzle. And there was a run for Will Ferrell where anytime he appeared on screen, you kind of had to stop and watch because you didn't know what was going to happen. Some classic skits. He's already been referenced on this show by Chip earlier in terms of his Jeopardy acumen. And then obviously the superstardom that he propels to after that. And he even dropped a little, how about the keyboard version of Not Like Us he played during the special the other night? I mean, still bringing it. The shtick is kind of a little, it's ran its course a little bit for a lot of folks, but you got to go with Will Ferrell just for star appeal, if nothing else.
Speaking of Jeopardy, I'm going to go with Kenan Thompson at number 2.
I heard this. He's the longest running cast member, I believe, in history at this point, right?
Isn't that amazing?
I mean, I'm thinking All That back in the day. And now
exactly. That's just what I was getting ready to say. From All That to, to Saturday Night Live with Good Burger in between. So yeah, Kenan Thompson is my number 2. Number 3?
Number 3 for me, personal favorite. Matt Foley, motivational speaker, is one of my all-time favorite skits. And Chris Farley, speaking of guys gone too soon, I knew him more initially because of his movie stardom, but then obviously I discovered the SNL stuff down the road. And man, give me Matt Foley, and I will run through a brick wall.
In a van down by the river, huh?
Yes.
Number 3, I'm going to go with the other half of the Blues Brothers, Dan Aykroyd. Quietly, kind of the straight man to Belushi's goofiness, and obviously did some great work beyond SNL. You know, I'm thinking of Trading Places, obviously, but yeah, Dan Aykroyd is my number 3.
Yeah, a little Coneheads action.
Yeah. Number 4.
Number 4 for me, she is kind of transcended like a lot of these stars, and that's kind of what the appeal for me is if you can kind of also do SNL at a high level, but then also go on to bigger things. But Kristen Wiig from 2005 to 2012, about as good as it. Target Lady, you know, she's got some great skits all across the board, and just the way I love her delivery more than anything else. And her impression. I'm a huge impressionist fan, and her being able to kind of almost transform into anybody is really, really fun for me. She's my number 4 pick.
And if you've not seen Bachelorettes, I don't know what you're doing with your life. So, that was the movie, right? Yeah, that was her. Bridesmaids. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. Man, maybe I'm not as well as I thought I was at the start of this show. Yes, Bridesmaids. Thank you. My number 4, speaking of that, Maya Rudolph.
Yeah.
Her impressions, like you said, particularly of former Vice President Kamala Harris and many others. And she leads a Prince tribute band in her off time. So gotta love that as well. But yeah, she's done some great stuff on SNL. Maya Rudolph is my number 4. Number 5.
Last for me, Molly Shannon, who was on from 95 to 2001. You know, I put my hands under my armpits right now before I pick her, because kind of the same deal with Will Ferrell. Anytime she's on the screen, I know something wild is about to happen. And, you know, it doesn't always resonate, but I can't look away. And she was fantastic. And I have to go with Molly Shannon as my last selection.
My 5th and final selection of this exercise, just because of her command of whatever it is that she's in, is Leslie Jones. It's kind of like you were saying, that whatever it is that she's doing, whatever skit it is that she's in, you know, you've got to pay attention, because you just don't know what you're going to get. And I think that's huge with her. Leslie Jones is my 5th among a number of candidates for best Saturday Night Live cast members. That is Top 5 Tuesday, brought to you by Mid-South 5 Fitness. Again, 2 great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. Thala Steel you can find at steelathletes.com, STEEL athletes.com. That's going to do it for the Top 5 Tuesday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We will be here. See y'all then.